Over 50% of marriages end in divorce. And in today's episode, we're going to explain exactly why. But before we do, if you're new to the channel, this is The Lion's Den. I'm Edison.
Hey, yo, what's up? I'm Darren.
Our channel is all about uncovering things within the topic of mental health, relationships, personal growth, personal development. Without further ado, let's jump right into it. So here's the thing. Over 50% of marriages end in divorce. And one of the biggest reasons why this is the case scenario is because of loss of trust. A lot of people lose trust in their significant other, which ultimately ends up becoming the reason why they end up leaving this person, divorcing this person, or whatever the case may be. So let me ask you this, Darren. What do you think is one of the biggest reasons why people lose trust in their partner?
When you lose trust in your partner, it's due to something that's warranted. If you started out in the relationship and you had massive amount of trust in them, and then all of a sudden you don't trust them anymore, it's because of one thing: they betrayed you. They were talking to someone else. They were flirting with someone. They did something that crossed over your boundaries to ultimately destroy the trust. So most relationships and marriages, that trust is broken when a partner cheats on you.
So you think it has to be warranted?
Trust is destroyed in a relationship when somebody intentionally goes out of their way to betray another person. So if your partner cheats on you, that's a warranted cost of losing trust. Now, there's a difference of going into a relationship without being trusting. If you've gotten hurt in the past, you may be wary of going into a relationship and you end up still marrying this person, but your past trauma has left you untrusting. And those are two different distinctions. Going into a relationship without trust and starting a relationship with trust built up are two massive different things. And when trust breaks in a relationship, it's probably one of the most hardest things to build back up in a relationship.
Now, do you think that there is a possibility for people to regain trust in their partner after they've already lost it or broken it?
I think when it comes to, if you're in a relationship and your partner cheats on you and you've lost all the trust in the world, as bad as you want to trust them again, as much as your heart is aching to rekindle that relationship, to be able to feel safe and secure, you'll never be able to feel safe again. You may forgive the person and you may say you trust them, but there'll always be that little voice in the back of your head saying, look how he's looking at her. Why is he always on his phone? Why isn't he looking at me? You will never be able to 100% trust someone again after you've been betrayed.
Like you said, it could be due to past traumas, or it could be due to current circumstances where maybe your current partner cheats on you. Maybe your current partner shows signs of being, and what people say, too friendly towards other women, or whatever the case may be, other men. Or in the past, you've been cheated on so many times, you've been burnt so many times that you're just afraid of things of that nature occurring again because you're afraid of looking dumb. And the thing is, a lot of people enter relationships without trust because they're afraid of looking stupid, because they gave somebody in the past all of their attention, all of their love, and all of their trust just for that person to ruin it, just for that person to take all of that trust and all of that vulnerability and use it as a way for them to get what they wanted. So that's how people end up losing that trust to begin with when it comes to entering a relationship. But also at the same time, you could be doing things that cause your partner to lose trust in you. You start doing things that you don't normally do. Your habits start changing. You stop being present emotionally for your partner. These are all things that are going to cause somebody to lose trust for you. Most importantly, doubt not only you, but themselves, because they're like, okay, maybe I'm not enough. Okay, maybe I'm not giving you what you want, or whatever the case may be. Maybe I'm not worthy of your love. So when people start to think like this causes them to lose trust, because now they're wondering, if I'm not worthy of your love, then who is? And you probably already know what that answer is. So going into a relationship without trust, and this might be a little controversial because some people may have different opinions, but going into a relationship without trust is the quickest way for your relationship to fail. The reason I say that is because if you immediately go into a relationship without trust, you're going to treat your partner as if they're somebody that can't be trusted. They're basically being convicted of a crime that they haven't committed. And the reason they're being convicted of this crime is because of somebody else, because of somebody from your past and what they did to you. Now you're going to treat your partner as if they were the one that did it. But in reality, the reason that you have all this resentment, the reason you have all of this anger and this lack of trust is because of somebody in the past that you've already let go of physically. but you haven't let go of them emotionally. So because of the fact that you haven't let go of them emotionally, there is this thought in the back of your mind that this same pattern is going to continuously happen to you over and over again, of somebody taking your emotions, bringing you to an all-time high just to fucking drop it and let it fall on its face. And that's why you're afraid of, that's why you're afraid to trust somebody, because you feel like if you trust somebody, they're going to turn around and show you why you should have never trusted them to begin with. But what I am here to tell you is that if you go into a relationship without trust, then it is nearly impossible for you to actually build a well-formed bond with somebody, because in the back of your mind, you're constantly wondering what their intentions are. And don't get me wrong, it's not bad to question somebody's intentions. But if you find yourself constantly questioning somebody's intentions, then you should have never been in a relationship with them to begin with. You should never be in a relationship with somebody you're uncertain about. The only time you should get into a relationship or commit to somebody is when you know that this person is compatible for you. Compatibility is key at the end of the day. If you and your partner are not compatible, nothing will ever work. Nothing will ever last. And you're constantly never going to trust them. And even in your future relationships, you're going to lack that trust, because you go into relationships because you don't want to be alone. You go into relationships because you think it's going to fill a void that you have inside of you from your past. But in reality, you're going to relationships with people that don't fulfill you because they're not compatible for you, but you think that they're the right person because it feels right. But unfortunately, just because it feels right doesn't mean it is right.
I think getting betrayed and losing trust in your partners is one of the most difficult things out there. There was supposed to be that person in your life that was supposed to be through it all for you. And when we're talking about marriages, you say through sickness and health, through poor or richer, but yet they sit there and they stab you in the back and betray you. And one of the most unspoken consequences of being betrayed by someone that you love, by your partner, is not the lack of trust that you will face in them, but it's the lack of trust in yourself. Mm-hmm. You look in the mirror and you don't trust the person you see. You don't trust your judgment. You don't trust your heart. You don't trust your mind. And that's one of the worst things you can do, is where you have no idea what to do because you don't trust any decision you make, because every decision you made prior has led you to a point of pain that you're facing now. And having no trust in yourself is one of the scariest things in the world.
That's right. Yeah, not being able to trust yourself is very hard to overcome, because you know yourself better than anybody else. So you have to have a genuine reason to not trust yourself. And usually if you don't trust yourself, there is a high likelihood that you also believe that there is no way for you to change the thing within yourself that you can't trust. And I also want to touch base on another point. So here's another reason why relationships fail majority of the time. And it's not only because of loss of trust, but it's because of that lack of communication. Lack of communication will eventually lead to loss of trust, because a lot of people don't know what communicating is in a relationship. A lot of people think communicating is me telling you everything that you're doing wrong and what I don't like about you. But true communication in a relationship isn't just about speaking. It's about being heard and understood. If you don't feel like you're being heard and understood by your partner, then there is a high likelihood that you are going to be less likely to want to communicate with your partner, because of the fact that it's almost as if you're talking to a wall. It's almost as if you're talking to somebody that would never listen, or you're trying to fix something that would never be fixed because you care, but your partner doesn't. Or vice versa. Your partner tries to communicate with you, but maybe you might be the person that doesn't like to communicate. And I'm going to tell you one thing right now. The reason most people are failing to communicate is because people mistake communication for an attack. People mistake someone genuinely trying to tell you how they're feeling and what they're feeling for an attack on your character. And you're thinking that just because someone is telling you that they're not feeling too happy, or they didn't like a decision you made, and they're genuinely just trying to make sure that you understand where they're coming from, yet at the same time, you think that they're attacking you and your lifestyle and that they don't appreciate you and things of that nature. And in reality, if you continue to have this mindset, you'll never find a lasting relationship because you'll constantly think that people have something against you. You'll constantly think that nobody loves you for who you are. But in reality, the reason you believe nobody loves you for who you are is because you're so unwilling to communicate, because you know that when with communication comes accountability. And with accountability comes the fact that you have to admit to doing something wrong or not being in the right. And that scares you because you don't like to be accountable. You don't like to be wrong, or you don't like to admit when you've done something wrong. And that's why communication is one of the rarest things to find in a relationship. But most people crave communication. They just don't realize it, or they just don't know how to begin.
I think a lot of people also do have kind of what you were saying is a misconception of what communication is. Sometimes like I communicate with my partner, we try to talk it out, but every time we talk, it turns out into an argument. And sometimes people confuse that communicating and discussing issues within a relationship is instantly an argument, like you said, like they're being attacked. But sometimes communication is not pretty. Sometimes what you have to say and how you're feeling is not going to be pretty. People feel bad. Life isn't always beautiful. The conversations you're going to have is not always beautiful. And if you're constantly getting upset over the way that you made your partner feel, then you need to learn what basic communication is. You need to not listen to get offended. You don't need to listen for a reaction, but rather listen to see their point of view. Listen to understand, to see where they're coming from. And sometimes, in a relationship, people will use a lack of communication as a way to manipulate and control another person. They see that this lack of communication is, one, driving their partner insane, and two, it's bringing them back to them for attention, and they love the attention they get. They're like, okay, let me not talk to her because I know if I ignore her, they're going to come back to me. They're going to message me. They're going to wonder what's going on, and they're going to blow up my phone. I love this attention. Even though the attention may not be positive, they're using it as a way to wrap you around their finger and leave you obsessed over them. And when someone is having that manipulation tactic on you to keep you wrapped around their finger and always be thinking about them and always be obsessive over them, they're just trying to control you, and it's toxic. And you don't need to be in a toxic relationship. If you find yourself being manipulated in a way, they're using your hot points, you're a communicated person, you're an open book, you like talking about your feelings, and they're purposely having a lack of communication. And I want to emphasize purposely because sometimes people just don't understand, and you're not conveying yourself to your partner so they can actually open up and communicate with you, because a relationship is a two-way street, so you have to be open as well. But if they're purposely having a lack of communication, it's toxic. And as much as you love them, sometimes divorce is the way to go. And I'm not personally a fan of divorces. I think if you got into a marriage, I think it's very sad if you have to get into a position where you need to divorce someone, because where did that relationship go? That person that you saw that made you happy, that gave you butterflies in your stomach, that made your heart pound, you were so excited to be with them, to be next to them all the time. I think it hurts a lot when I see a relationship fall apart like that. But sometimes it's needed, and you need to realize that loving someone isn't enough to stay in a toxic relationship, and sometimes walking away, it's going to be the hardest, but it's also the greatest act of self-love that you can do.
I agree. Self-love is key. I mean, at the end of the day, a lot of times, that lack of communication comes because people are uncertain of how conversations are going to go. That lack of communication comes because people think that when you have a conversation or a discussion with somebody, it's going to go south, or it's not going to end well. And so people try to avoid it because a lot of people are non-confrontational. A lot of people try to avoid conflict as much as possible, but that ends up leading to more conflict because of failure to communicate. All it does is it bottles up this conflict. It bottles up the emotions because you never have the opportunity to actually explain and describe how you feel because you're afraid of any repercussions you're going to get for talking to somebody. And when that becomes the case scenario, these are things that are red flags. So before you even try to ignore these red flags, you need to ask yourself if staying is worth losing a piece of yourself, because sometimes holding on does more damage than letting go. And a lot of people don't realize that. A lot of people don't realize that holding on to a relationship that no longer serves you and does not make you happy is only going to make you worse emotionally and mentally, because for as long as you hold on to a relationship that makes you unhappy, you'll continuously be unhappy, and your mental health will slowly erode until there's no longer existent, because you thought that by holding on, somehow miraculously things were going to get better.
Yeah, and one thing I do want to point out is kind of like similar to what you said, is that if you're staying in a relationship if you're staying in a relation that doesn't value, it's only going to hurt you more than walking away. And you deserve someone that is going to choose you and respect your own worth, rather than someone that makes you question yourself and every single decision that you make. What do you think is the number one driving force that separates love and intimacy and affection in a relationship?
That's a good point you bring up. Here's the thing. There's multiple factors that lead to a lack of intimacy in relationships, and the distinction of intimacy and, you said, love?
Mm-hmm.
So,
and affection.
So first of all, they all go hand in hand. With affection and love comes intimacy. However, over time in a relationship, it's very easy to lose that intimacy because you guys fall into this area of comfort. Whereas in the beginning of the relationship, you guys are very, I guess you could say, head over heels for one another. You guys are infatuated by one another. So you guys constantly want to be with each other. You guys constantly want to have these intimate moments with one another. And then over time, you get a little bit of, you gain a little bit of comfortability to where you feel like you don't naturally feel those emotions that you felt initially. Now, these are natural parts of relationships. Every relationship is going to have a cooling off period. Nothing is ever going to be it's not going to be the honeymoon phase for the entirety of the relationship. And that's what a lot of people need to understand. But also, a driving force for lack of intimacy is infidelity. Your partner could be cheating on you. You could be cheating on your partner, and because of that, you lose that level of intimacy that you once had because you're seeking it or receiving it from somebody else. And when that becomes the case scenario, you start to show less love, less affection. You guys start to have less sex and things like that. And it's because of the fact that you're already receiving it from somebody else, so you no longer look for it within your partner. Another reason why intimacy could be lacking is, women go through hormone phases where sometimes their hormones are at peak stages where they want to have intimate moments. And intimacy doesn't only have to be sex, but in this case scenario, we'll talk about sex, right? Because a lot of men need to realize is women have these natural roller coaster of hormones where their hormones will be at an all-time high, sex is at an all-time high, their sex drive is at an all-time high, but then that hormone level drops. And when those hormone levels drops, especially after pregnancy and birth, that sexual desire and that sex drive goes down too with it. And it's easy for a man to see this and think, oh, well, maybe my woman doesn't want to be with me anymore. Maybe my woman is, seeking attention from somebody else, or maybe maybe she just doesn't love me anymore. But you have to understand every single underlying factor that contributes to a lack of intimacy. Because if you don't, it's very easy to get into your own head and convince yourself that you're the problem, somebody's the problem, something's going wrong, or there's some reason why you should not trust your partner. But in reality, if you actually took a moment to fully understand what your woman is going through, you would start to figure out why you don't feel that intimacy there. But for the most part, lack of intimacy, and I'm going to talk about the majority of the cases. A lot of time, what causes lack of intimacy in a relationship is because of the simple fact that your partner is cheating on you. Sometimes when you realize that your partner has no longer been showing you affection, love, and not been giving you the level of attention that they've given you before, it's because that they're replacing you with somebody else. Because that level of affection, attention, love, and that intimacy that you guys once had that helped your relationship thrive is no longer present in the moment because it's present for somebody else that's not you. And it's a hard pill to swallow because you don't want to believe that your partner is showing love and compassion and intimacy to somebody else. But it's something that you have to realize soon, that if your partner went from loving you, from talking to you, from engaging with you, from being very intimate and affectionate with you to no longer seeming to care, that means that energy that they once put into your relationship is now going into a new relationship. And it's only a matter of time before you learn the hard way and figure out what was actually going on behind the scenes. The intimacy is one of those things that when it starts to fade, it's not just like you're losing a spark in your relationship. It's essentially the entire flame that keeps your relationship alive. So, Darren, let me ask you this. Darren, you're a virgin, according to one of the comments.
And a donut.
And a donut. Darren, so when it comes to this overall concept of lack of intimacy, do you think affection has a lot to do with this lack of intimacy? And if there is a lack of affection, where do you think it's probably coming from? Or why do you think it's happening?
So I think there's two different reasons. And the first one is if there's a lack of affection and a lack of intimacy in a relationship, most likely it's that their partner is cheating on them. And the other end of lack of affection and intimacy, it comes from one basic thing, and that's going to be misunderstanding and miscommunication. Most of the time, your partner may not know how you want to feel affection. They don't know your love language. They don't know your needs from an intimate level because you never said anything. And just because they don't know how you want to feel loved, how you want to show affection and get affection and receive it, doesn't mean there's a lack of affection and intimacy in a relationship. There's a lack of communication. And if your partner truly, really loves you, he's going to want to know what he can do for you to make you feel that intimacy, to make you feel that affection, to make you feel like that special someone. Now, on the other hand, if they do know and they continue to refuse to show you that intimacy, to show you that affection, they're either cheating on you or they don't like you to begin with. They don't want to be in a relationship with you, and they're there for one or two reasons, and that's control and manipulation to make themselves feel good on the inside. And I think if one of the hardest things that happens when you get cheated on and when there is a lack of intimacy in a relationship is what it does to you on the inside. You look in the mirror and you used to be confident. You used to look at yourself and you love the way you look. And now you hate everything about you. And you compare yourself to that person that they cheated on you with. And you always question to yourself, why was I not good enough? Why am I so ugly? Why am I different? And it's one of the most heartbreaking things is because you were this person full of love, full of joy. You need to understand that what they did to hurt you, it says more about them as a person than it does you. And finding peace, what that means is that knowing that their actions were never your fault. They didn't betray you. They didn't cheat on you because of you. They did that because of a lack of warmth in their heart, a lack of understanding in their brain. It wasn't your fault that they betrayed you. It's all on them.
Yeah. And it's so easy to get trapped in the cycle of thinking that because somebody betrayed you, because someone cheated on you, because somebody left you, you begin to feel as though you're incapable of love. You start to feel like nobody would ever be able to love you, or you start to feel like this whole love thing was never for you. And it's because every single time you get into a relationship, you get hurt. Every single time you get into a relationship, you end up leaving the relationship worse than when you went in. And this happens again and again and again until the point where you eventually get discouraged and you're like, you know what? This whole love thing is not for me. It's for everybody else. Everybody in the world was meant to find their love except for me. Because why? How am I capable of being loved if every time I go into a relationship, somebody shows me otherwise? Why is it? How am I capable of being loved if I get hurt by the people I trust and love the most? Some people get hurt by their own family, their parents, their fucking closest siblings, or whatever the case may be. And this sets the stage for them already. When it comes to this mindset that they're incapable of being loved, is they've already been hurt by their own family. And now they constantly get hurt by every single person that they think is going to show them something different. That they think they finally met a person that's going to finally be able to show them what love feels like. Just for them to realize that just for you to realize that person you thought was going to finally give you the love that you felt you deserved or you felt was long overdue, just for that person to end up cheating on you, just for that person to end up leaving you, and just for that person to end up abandoning you and leaving you worse than when you went into that relationship to begin with. And that's the most painful thing. It's hard to wrap your head around the fact that people can be so cold to the point where you give them all this love. You almost believe that this person is perfect for you, that they're the one. And there's no question in your mind anymore. You put yourself in a position where you finally get to open up. And maybe you're one of those people, it's hard for you to open up, but you found somebody that got you to do it. You found someone that got you to actually talk about your past experience, your past traumas, the things that you cherish most in your life, and the things that you doubt most about yourself. Just for a couple months to go by, and this same person uses those vulnerabilities, those insecurities, and those confidential conversations that you guys have with one another, and they use it against you. They start reminding you of all these things that make you insecure. They start pulling all of this shit that you told them in the past, and they start using it against you as basically ammo for their attack. And now it leaves you wondering, who can you truly trust in life? And then after that relationship fails and is said and done, you feel like nothing will ever work for you because the one person that you thought you could trust the most ended up being the one person that had it out for you the most. And there's a lot of mistakes that people are making when it comes to a relationship. And a lot of people, they're trying to fix their relationship. A lot of people, they're trying to fix things that were never meant to be fixed to begin with. So here are 4 mistakes you're making while trying to fix things in your relationship. And it's thinking time will change them, believing you can change for them, ignoring your gut, and hoping that love is enough. Those 4 things are the biggest mistakes that you're making in your relationship that you think is going to fix your broken relationship. When in reality, the only thing that's going to fix your relationship is exiting it. The only thing that's going to fix this relationship is excluding yourself from it. Because if you continue to stay in this relationship under the premise that love is enough to fix it, it'll never work and you'll constantly hurt yourself. And the problem is, a lot of people are being hurt more because of themselves and their own beliefs than by their actual partner. And what I mean by that is your partner can hurt you, yes. But the fact that you hold on because of hope, because you think this person will change for you, is going to ultimately hurt you more and leave you in a darker tunnel than if someone just cheated on you.
There's a saying, and it says, if you love something, let it go, and if it was meant to be, it will come back. I think that's bullshit. Because if you go ahead and you're in a relationship and it was a toxic relationship and you let go of it and they come back saying they changed, it's bullshit. They're just there to manipulate you because they couldn't do it to someone else, and they know you're an easy target. They know all of your secrets. They know everything about you, so you're compelled to go back to them because of the memories. But as soon as you go back to them, that's a mistake. And you'll see more often than not that couples that get back together with a previous relationship, guess where they're at in the next year? They're separated again because
old habits die hard. Someone cheated on you in the past, they're going to cheat on you again.
Yeah.
Someone mistreated you in the past, they're going to mistreat you again. And the only reason why you think that it's going to work the second time around is the same reason why you thought it was going to work the first time around. Because in the beginning of the relationship, there comes that honeymoon phase. Everything is blissful. Everything is peaceful. Everything seems to work out perfectly. But all you got to do is give it a little bit of time. And it won't be long before you realize that this person you thought changed for you was never going to change for you to begin with. All they wanted was something from you, but they knew that the easiest way to get something out of you was by convincing you that they'll change for you. And you fucking fell for it. You fucking believed it. You thought for a fucking second that this person was actually going to change for you and become better and improve. You thought this person was done with their old ways, that there was actually a chance in hell that this person could be better. Just for them to look at you, get everything that they wanted from you, and then be like, you know what? I'm resorting back to my old ways. They do the exact same thing that hurt you the first time, and now you're hurt even more the second time around. And this all comes because you're stuck living in the past. And that's the fourth sign that your relationship is doomed. And it's because you're living in the past. You're basing your present off of the past. You're thinking that there's a chance in hell that things will work out because in the past, things did work out.
You're living in the past thinking, the relationship will change. But it also works out is every single relationship that you'll enter, if you're constantly living in your past traumas from previous relationships, those relationships are doomed to end the same exact way with either you hurt or you hurting the other person more than you're hurting yourself.
Hmm. Why do you think most people hold on to past relationships?
I think
Why do you think most people hold on to the past in general?
I think most people. That's a good one. There's two. There's a couple different reasons why people hold on to the past. Now, people tend to hold on to the past because they want to get transported back into a moment in time where they generally felt happy, because the current life they're living in right now is hell. The current life they're living in right now has little to no joy. So they constantly live in a past with a partner where they felt that joy, where they felt alive. And because they haven't been living in a while, so they want to go back to where they actually feel that they were alive in a relationship. Now, the second reason why people constantly live in the past is because there's unresolved there's unresolved problems. You were in a relationship, there was an issue at hand, you brought up the relationship, and your partner keeps on saying, can we just move on past this? Why are you constantly bringing up the past? And that's their way of escaping the issue and not confronting the issue. And all you want to do is get that resolved, but they constantly fire back of you, just get over it, just get over it, just get over it. But how can you get over it when they've never actually put any effort forward to communicate and help ease your mind and ease your troubles?
Darren, I want to talk about the first thing you said. Why do you think people have to live in the past in order to feel happy again?
In the past, these people were one of the most joyful and hopeful people around. They had a contagious energy that excited the room, but then it only took one person to destroy all of it. And now the only thing that they're left with is the memories of who they used to be. They look in the mirror and they see a completely different person.
Well, that's true. A lot of people, they look in the mirror and they don't even recognize their own reflection. A lot of people look in the mirror and all they see is the outcome of what somebody else has done to them. So many people can reflect on the past and remember how happy they used to be. Remember when they were known for having a contagious smile. Remember when they were known for lighting up a room every time they walked in it. And like you said, it just took one person, one experience to change that forever. It just took that one person to enter your life, make you think that they genuinely gave a fuck about you, just to hurt you more than anybody else could have ever hurt you, and to hurt you more than you would have ever imagined in the past. And the thing is, you don't prepare for this type of pain. The only thing you can do is deal with it. And most people don't know how to deal with this pain. So now what ends up happening is, because they've been hurt so bad by someone they thought they could love so much, they think that their happiness is to blame. They think that them being happy all the time and them trusting everybody was to blame. They don't blame the other person. They blame themselves for being happy. And that's why it's hard for them to return to that state of happiness, because they think that if they're happy again, they're just going to get hurt. But they think if they stay in the state of hurt and the state of pain and misery, then nothing will surprise them anymore. It just becomes one of those, oh, that happened again. Or, oh, I already expected that. And they go from seeing things in an optimistic perspective to now seeing everything in a negative light, so that when something bad does happen, it no longer catches them by surprise.
I want to touch up on a little bit of what you said there. And I think one of the saddest things that can happen to a person is when they've constantly been hurt so many times. They've constantly been betrayed so many times. And it gets them to a point where they don't cry about it. They don't even get sad about it. They just have accepted that that's what's going to happen to them. And I don't think anyone should ever get to a point like that in their life, because how much do you have to get hurt to get to a point where you're just like, it's just another day?
Number 5 will be neglecting emotional needs. The importance of this topic is because of the fact that a lot of people are knowingly or unknowingly neglecting their partner's needs. Most importantly, a lot of people are feeling as though their partner is neglecting their emotional needs. Sometimes this is communicated, sometimes this is not. Sometimes this is communicated, but nothing is ever changed or done to make things better, or for you to slowly start feeling more affection or have your needs be met, would be if you neglect your partner's needs. So here's the thing, is what tells us whether or not a relationship is meant for us is based on whether or not the relationship we're in is capable of fulfilling our needs. Not only is compatibility important, but compatibility is an essential human need when it comes to relationships. So, knowing what your needs are and knowing whether or not they're being fulfilled or neglected will tell you whether or not your partner is either the right one for you or whether it's something you would have to bring up. Because a lot of people feel as though their emotional needs are being neglected by their partner, yet many people don't know what their own needs are. So how can you expect your partner to understand what your needs are when you don't have a full understanding of them either? So, Darren, when it comes to emotional needs and it comes to the overall process of neglecting them, what do you think is either one, the biggest cause for it or the biggest sign of it?
It's going to sound really, really obvious. And that's when someone's not there for you. The moment you need a shoulder to lean on, you need a shoulder to cry on, you need someone to vent to, and your partner is supposed to be that person. But if you go like, babe, can we talk? Not today, not today. They're neglecting your emotional needs. You have a need for discussion, need to communicate. Or if you go to your partner and you say, I'm just not having the day today. I need some time to relax. I just need to be on my own. And then they sit there and they try to force you to be with them. Be like, oh, why do you just don't want to hang out with me? If they're constantly pushing that narrative on you, when you need a second to breathe, you need a little bit of alone time, and you're telling them, hey, I need just to be alone for a little bit. I'm not having a good day. And they try to do anything but to help you. That's a way of them neglecting your emotional needs.
Neglecting your partner's emotional needs is a subtle art of leaving a relationship without actually leaving. Think about it. Neglecting your partner's emotional needs is the subtle art of abandoning your relationship without ever actually leaving it. Because the feelings, the emotions, and the understanding in your presence is missing. Although you're there physically, emotionally, you're not there. Mentally, you're not there. And your partner doesn't feel that connection. It's almost as if you're a stranger, right? Like, this person is living in the same household as you. This person is eating with you, whatever the case may be. But it's almost like there's no chemistry. So it's like going from living with the love of your life to living with a roommate. That's what happens when your emotional needs are neglected. You no longer have this bond with that person that you used to have. So things become a lot different because, as I mentioned, it's the art of leaving a relationship without actually leaving it. And it's now typically when your partner starts to neglect your emotional needs, it's usually a telltale sign that they're in the process of checking themselves out of the relationship. If your partner stops showing you love, stops showing you affection, stops showing you attention, stops fulfilling your needs like they used to, then there's a high likelihood that either one, they're fulfilling somebody else's needs already. Two, they're on their way out of the relationship and they're giving you the warning signs of it without ever telling you it. Or three, they've become complacent enough in the relationship where they think that them neglecting your emotional needs is just normal. Because you haven't said anything about it, they're not going to change it. So these are all factors that play into it. And the most important thing is for you to realize if your needs are not being met, one, vocalize it. Speak up. You deserve to be heard. Because these are things that your partner is never going to tell you. And they know they're hurting you. But the thing is, your silence is essentially telling them that it's okay to hurt you. So it's important to speak up because your voice deserves to be heard in your relationship. But if you never speak up, then how can you expect anything to change? Most importantly, if you've spoken up so many times and nothing has changed yet, why do you stay? These are the questions you have to ask yourself. Why do you consistently put yourself in a position to get hurt over and over again under the false belief of what love should be, over the belief that if you stick with the relationship long enough, love will return? Unfortunately break something to you guys. But when love is lost, if love is lost in your relationship, if that love that you once had is no longer present, it is never coming back. I'm sorry to say it, but it's true. If your partner left you for somebody else, if your partner neglected you, if your partner abused you, there is no second chance. There is no possibility of them getting better or them changing. The only other possibility and the only second chance there is a second chance for them to repeat the same fucking hurt that they already put you through. And you're going to allow it. That's the only opportunity there is for a second chance, is them hurting you all over again and you knowing that you're putting yourself in this position. But you're okay with so here's the thing is, before you put yourself in this position, there's a lot of thought processes that go through your head. There's something in the back of your mind that tells you your partner has not changed, or something that tells you shouldn't trust them. But at the same time, there's that emotional part of you that says, well, what if they did? What if they did and now I'm missing out on the new version of them? So because you believe this fallacy, because you believe this false idea that you created in your head, you put yourself in a very vulnerable position to get hurt again. And this cycle repeats over and over and over again until you think that you're the problem, without realizing that it's not you that's the problem. It's your decisions and your choices that are the problem. It's you choosing to stay in a relationship that has hurt you on various occasions. That's the problem. Not you, not your physical state, not your emotional state, and not your actions, but your decisions.
I just want to touch up on one thing that you mentioned earlier, and it's one of the biggest problems in a relationship, and you hear it often, is they'll tell their partner, you're here, but you're not really there. But it's important not to jump to conclusions, because that person could be going through something. You can only get hurt so much. You can only have so much stress until there's literally nothing there. You're trying to be there present. You may not be there emotionally, but your presence is there. Don't instantly assume there's something that your partner doesn't like you. They may just be going through something, and they're at least there. You can only endure so much pain and so much stress until you're just floating on through. And it's important that you're in a relationship and you go to your partner, and instead of seeking and thinking it's about you, talk to them and try to figure out what's going on through them. Is there anything that you can do as a partner to help them out of this rut that they're in? Now, of course, there is the side of where they're being more emotionally detached because they want to end a relationship and they don't see that relationship with you. But it's very important, and it's very difficult to spot the two distinctions. Are they going through something, and can you be there for them? Versus, are they neglecting me because they don't like me? It's very hard, but this is where communication becomes important, to go up to them and be like, hey, I don't know if something is going on with you, but you being this way is making me feel this. Is there anything that I can do to not only make you feel better, but also to rekindle and help what I'm feeling? And I think that's very important to do in a relationship, because people love jumping to conclusion, and it's very hard not to jump to conclusions and just understand that maybe they're going through something. Another thing too that I just kind of want to touch up just on for a few seconds is, I know that you may want to be staying in a relationship and you don't like the idea of separation. You may think like what he said earlier, you may be able to change them, but you need to realize, as hard as it is, you just need to leave the relationship. And it's important to trust the healing process. It's normal during this process to feel both okay and sad at the same exact time and during the same day. Healing is a journey. It's not a destination you reach.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. And I'm sure our viewers at home can agree with it. So again, the 5 signs that you're in a doomed relationship is loss of trust, lack of communication, lack of intimacy, living in the past, and neglecting your partner's emotional needs, or having yours be neglected. If you gain any value from today's video, we ask that you subscribe. Most importantly, share this with somebody that you think can gain anything from this or receive any value from this that might be going through something similar. As always, thank you for tuning in. I'm Edison.
And I'm Darren.
And this is The Lion's Den.